Good evening. We're just waiting for Terry. She's attempting to connect via Facebook Live. We're using Be Live, but for some reason we're having technical difficulties. So just give you a heads up. It's this webinar tonight. We're going to be learning how to capture your audience's attention. So hang on a sec. I'm going to try and capture Terry here. Hi, Tracy.
Ah,
Hey, there we go.
oh,
Welcome to the 21st century, Stefano Casalter.
nice.
Yes, welcome to the Complete Speaker System live training. This is where you get about a half an hour of Tracy's or Terry's amazing tips while I sit here and crack jokes. And then we make fun of each other.
Pretty much. Yeah. Oh, so many people.
So in this webinar, we're going to learn how to capture your audience's attention with powerful openers, guaranteed to entice your audience into listening to your presentations, videos, conversations, and not only enticing audiences of 1,000, but these transfer into enticing audiences of 1 as well. And you can use these skills to improve your personal communication, your storytelling skills as well.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's a very limited time to capture your audience's attention?
Are you
I
asking
think
me?
so. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have very little time to get people, and especially these days when we're doing videos, webinars, you've got about 8 seconds to grab people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're on stage, you have a very limited time to capture attention as well. So this calls for clever ways that we need to think on how to get people hooked and get your message across, especially these days with our limited attention spans. So in speaking, we like to call it oratory clickbait.
Yeah.
Curiosity is a neurological phenomenon that drives a race. It's the noblest of human drives. It's what makes us human. This curiosity just brings us to discover and forge and move forward. It's almost irresistible. And it motivates our learning too, and our economy even. Curiosity is what drives us. So since it's a natural phenomenon, why don't we take advantage of this naturally occurring thing to draw people into what we're trying to say? And you see it every day in for example, when I open my browser, I get MSN, and it's almost irresistible. My mind, I have a hard time, I'm trying to type in, but then my eyes go down, and there's 6 ways to boost your sex drive. Click. One simple trick housewife uses to make millions. Click. Celebrities, unrecognizable 20 years ago. Click. It's crazy. You can't resist it. Advertisers use it in the best ways. Mm-hmm. So why don't we do that? Take advantage of that natural phenomenon. So we're going to go through some openings that we like and think that are very powerful that we've used in our presentations, workshops, speeches, and not only help you draw people into your speeches, but draw people into your conversations as well. So the first one is cyclical openings. This is one of the best ways to open a speech because you close with it as well. Mm-hmm. For example of what we're talking about, the other day I wrote a story. It was about my son Giovanni and his favorite artist, Martin Kerr. And I opened it with, "Dad, play our song." And it was just kind of a nice opening. People were thinking, "Oh, what's this about? What is he talking about?"
Right.
And to finish it off, I used the same line, "Dad, play our song." It gives people a sense of completion. We strive as human beings for closure. If we don't understand something, we're compelled to find out. So it's a great technique to give people a really nice, happy feeling and a complete completion that makes you memorable. So many of these techniques that we're talking about tonight, you could also use as a cyclical open and close.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can use this as storytelling for everyday conversation. I used to stick out like a sore thumb. I know what you're thinking. You still do. I know. All right. I used to dread being around strangers. Before I learned public speaking, I was a guy that would sit in a room full of strangers and just be mortified. I'd be sitting there looking for any way to get out. And this was the days before smartphones. Now you can kind of pretend you're super busy with something on your phone, looking down. But before, you couldn't. I had to sit there and I'd just try and get out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's what I used to do.
But from the confidence I
was saying, that's what I used
Sorry?
to do. That's what I used to do in networking events, is I would get really busy on my phone. I'd have a really important message I had to respond to right away to avoid talking to people.
Yeah. I'd even go to the extent of pretending I was talking on my phone.
Nice.
Yeah. But from the confidence that I've gained from public speaking, I could confidently speak to people now. I'm happy to talk to strangers. I'm never running out of things to say with all the stories I built up in my story journal. It just never ends. And by using cyclical openings, you can come back to it just like that. No more sore thumb. There's just a quick example of a quick story with a cyclical opening. I used to stick out like a sore thumb.
Nice. I see what you did there. Yeah.
Now this is
NLP a lot. Is a cyclical opening, or we call it an open loop in NLP, which is you open a story, you don't complete it, to engage that curiosity. And if you've ever watched the news, that's what they do extremely well, is they get your curiosity at the beginning of a news broadcast. They tell you something has happened in the world, but now we're going to tell you something else. And then eventually they'll loop back to that original story. Or comedians do that extremely well too. So it's highly effective in multiple different contexts.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point for comedians as well. It's almost like a callback, like an inside joke. When you loop back to something, people just get a good sense of completion, happiness, and it just makes a good speech a good speech.
Totally.
Here's another one of our favorites, is the high drama opening.
Yeah.
So let's use this example. This is Terry's favorite movie of all time.
Favorite ever.
Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
Oh.
So I don't know if you've seen The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, but it opens with high drama. You've got, you're just cringing, I know, I'm sorry. You've got Gandalf and the demon fighting, and they're falling from this bridge, and they're battling in the air, tumbling, turning. You don't know what's going to happen. There's tension. Are they going to live? Are they going to die? And just before they hit the bottom, boom, Frodo wakes up and he thinks he's Gandalf. And then he goes into the story.
Nice.
That's a good example of a high drama opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's where you put people in a scene of tension, and that tension just grips them. And then you could go back into the menial stuff, the boring stuff, or the setting up the story. That's always got to happen, but that happens after the high drama, after that hook.
Yeah.
We're trying to think of movies we could use to give this point, and I mentioned the Two Towers. Terry's like, I hate the Lord of the Rings.
Hate it.
I'm like, okay.
It. Sorry, most people probably love it, but I hate it.
So I say, what about this one? This is the perfect example of a high drama opening. So I send her a link. It's Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's Indy with the statue, putting it on, puts the bag there, grabs the statue, runs away. The rock starts falling, and she goes, not everybody's seen Lord of the Rings. I mean, Indiana Jones. And it just dawned on me that Terry's a little bit younger. And she was probably a little too young at that time. But for me, it's a universal experience. Fight Club's another one. The reason we keep using movies as a great example, because movies are perfect examples of how to grab your audience's attention. Mm-hmm. So here's an example of the opening that I had recently in my international speech competition. And it's just an example of how to add some tension right in the beginning. If you were there that night, you would have seen me, 35-year-old Italian mama's boy, frozen in place. The chicken parmigiana was heavy in my stomach, almost as heavy as the decision I had to make. Would I chicken out like usual? Or would I not let fear interfere from what I want to get in my life? And then I go into my story. So that's another example of a high drama opening.
Yeah.
So what do we not do?
Yeah, what do we not do?
Hi, my name is Stefano Casalter. Talk about anticlimactic. How many times have I seen a speaker open with, hi, my name is? Mm-hmm. They might have just had an intro telling their name. What a waste of a wonderful opportunity to grab somebody's attention.
Yes.
So why repeat it?
Yep.
There may be a situation where you don't have an intro, but still, our thought is, why waste that opportunity? Start with a story. Start with something. Yeah. Start with one of these openings, and then once you get the hook, my name is Stefano Casalter, and then keep going.
Yeah, much better.
You got any pet peeves?
How's everyone doing today?
That's a beauty. Yeah.
How's everyone doing today? It's so cliched. It's not interesting. It doesn't capture anyone's attention. And what are they really supposed to say? If you're speaking to 500 people, are they really supposed to answer every one of them and say, oh, pretty good, not bad, kind of rough. Someone might be having a bad day. Like not a strong way to open. You have such a short period of time to capture someone's attention, and that's not a way to do it. That's something people hear all day long. They're immune to it. They're desensitized to that kind of opening.
Yeah.
So you say, how are you doing today? And they're already looking at their phones. We have a comment from Jeanette. It's like, hi, how are you? When you're shopping, drives me crazy to hear it over and over. Exactly, because you hear it all day. You hear it all day long. I agree with you, Jeanette. Drives me nuts when I'm shopping too. I'm busy. I'm shopping. Don't bug me.
Here's what separates speakers from great speakers. Great speakers know how to open with power, how to open with interest, how to catch people's attention. Yeah. Oh, how about this weather out there today? Everyone enjoying it? Oh, no. What a waste of an opportunity. Best way to
Absolutely.
do is use a powerful opening.
Hmm. Yeah.
Have you ever heard someone start speaking and everybody gets drawn in? When I remember seeing my mentor Ian get up, and when he got on stage, he opened and everyone was just drawn in right away, just as he's speaking. He'd use his story opening, just like that. Open with a story. Story is the
Yeah.
most powerful thing. In conversations, here's an experiment. You're sitting with people, just start telling a story. Yeah, I can't do anything about the weather, I know.
Right. Right.
But you'll see something magic happen.
Hmm.
Seriously, try it this week. Just if you're sitting in a group of people, just start telling a story and watch what happens. You'll see people just kind of lock in and they start listening. There's something that happens when the human brain detects something a story. It's, for example, if you start saying, "Yeah, I went to work and I came home and I went to bed," not much of a story there.
Right.
But add this: I went up, I got to work, something happened on the way home. Bam.
Hmm.
There's something in our minds that clicks. We know that a story's starting and we're instantly drawn in. So story openings are some of the most powerful ways to grab your audience's attention.
And stories put people into a mild trance as well. So speaking from hypnosis, stories will induce a mild trance where it lowers resistance in the audience. So now they're very open to hearing what you have to say. Not like a sleeping kind of trance. It's not going to put them out or
Mm.
uh, not into the kind of trance a hypnotist would induce, but into a mild trance where now they're very captivated and they're eager to hear more and they're open to hearing it. So that's especially, I think, powerful if you're doing, if your talk has any sort of a, if you're selling anything with your talk,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're teaching, if you're doing an educational talk and you want them to be open to hearing the information and able to learn it easily. It's to open with a story.
Yeah, awesome point. Hey, Jessica. So, how about workshop openings?
Yeah. Yeah. So workshop openings, you have them for a longer period of time in a workshop than generally when you have them for a talk. So you have a little more flexibility here in terms of how you open. I think a really powerful way to open a workshop is to ask questions. And this is something we teach in our complete speaker system is we teach a format system for how to organize your workshops that everybody learns and you capture everyone's learning style. Well, one of those learning styles is there's a portion of people who have to know why they need to learn it before they can learn. So you ask some questions opening your workshop, questions that are very generalized that will capture most of the audience. So you don't want to ask very specific questions that only one or two people might say yes to. You want to ask a very broad question and enough questions that you get the majority of the audience. So, and you raise your hand, you get their engagement, you get them moving, you get them lifting their hand and raising it in agreement with you. So how many of you have ever experienced blank? Or how would you like to know a technique that's going to connect you to your audience? Right? And most people in that would raise their hand. And you gauge the audience, you gauge the group, and you want to make sure that like at least 90% of people have raised their hands at least once. Now you have the group's attention. And those people who need to know why before they can learn something now understand why they have to learn it. So it has two purposes. You're getting engagement and group rapport by asking the question. Having them raise their hand also engages them and gets rapport. And you've answered the question why they want to learn this. So that group of people in the audience who needs to know why, now they're open to learning it. If you don't do that at the top of a workshop, then those why people are going to be waiting the entire time while you're talking and teaching. They're going to be asking themselves, why do I have to learn this? Why do I have to learn this? What's it? Why? And while they're doing that process, they're not learning anything. They're not listening to you. They're waiting to understand why they have to learn it. So that's, in my opinion, that's the best way to open up a workshop. You can also use stories. I would do that after asking the questions. I would then go into some stories to help lower some resistance, to warm up the audience a bit more, and I would do some very well-crafted metaphors to help set up the frames for what they're going to learn. Do you want to add anything to that?
I think you covered it.
Perfect.
I think one of the tricks to actually selling on stage as well, and Jeanette's talking about the W5. Well,
Oh yeah.
leave there's the why, there's the what, but there's the how. And that's where you want to leave most of it out. You can tell people what to do, but if you're selling on stage, you want to not tell them exactly how. And that kind of creates the hunger for more.
Yeah. You give them a little bit, enough that they know they got value out of the talk or the presentation, but not so much that they don't need to buy your product or your service later.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
You focus statements and questions. It's all about your audience. Make your speech you focus for your audience. Some good ways to open. If you were to say, if I were to ask you, and then go into it. Or if you were there, you would have seen. Yeah. It kind of brings people into your speech. It's like you're talking to just that person. You want your audience to leave thinking, wow, she is really talking to me. And that's one way you do it, is you make your language you-centered. So starting off with a you-focused question or a you-focused statement really helps draw people in.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is not one of my favorites, but some people can use it very effectively. And quotations, opening with the quotation. And a very good friend of ours, here's a good example, Devin Downey. She went on to win the District 96 World Champion of Public Speaking. She went to the world stage in Vancouver, actually, which was amazing. And she had a wonderful opening. She said, C.S. Lewis said, friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, what? You too? I thought I was the only one. Is there someone in your life that you've shared that moment with? And then she went into her speech. So that's a good example of how to use a quote effectively when you're opening your speech.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another way, and this is another one of our favorites, is the flash forward. Yeah. You flash forward into a scene, and then you dial back into the beginning of your speech. So this is kind of like same sort of thing as a high drama, but without the high drama. Here's one that I used in one of my speeches. It opened like this. Year was 2000. I was standing on my balcony, and in my hands, I held a check for $140,000. So that's the flash forward. Then I go back into the beginning of the story on how that started. Isn't that a great way to grab attention? Does it make you curious? Yes. Absolutely. It's, come and flash forward into a scene, makes you curious about what happened before this. What happened before this? And then when you start your speech, people, okay, now they get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw Brendan Burchard do that really well on stage, where he was talking about his car accident that changed his life. And he started his talk at the moment of standing on the hood of the car, looking for a way to get off the car because he knew it was going to catch on fire. So high drama and flash forward. We don't know what got him there, why he was there, what happened. And then his talk was leading up to that moment, and then how that moment changed his life. Very powerful opening.
Awesome example. Here's another one that we think is important, is the what's in it for me. Now this comes, people want to know, is this relevant to me? Why am I watching this? In videos or webinars, you got to get to it right away. You got to say, in this video, you're going to learn to blah, 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 right away.
Yes.
Our opinion is, when you're given the what's in it for me, when it comes to inspirational speeches, competition speeches, why give it away right away?
Yeah.
Why not tease people with the what's in it for me? Give them a little hint of what's in it for me. So that only gives them the idea that it's relevant to them, but it draws them in. It creates that curiosity, that power that drives all of us to draw right into your speech. Especially if you're sitting in a room full of 100 people and you're sitting there to inspire them. They're stuck. They can wait a couple more seconds to find out. But I guarantee you, by giving them the little taste, the teaser, that's what's going to get them really hooked. And they'll figure out, yes, this is for me, but they'll still be wanting more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, if it's an educational speech, tell them early on what they're going to learn, or send a message in a video, but otherwise leave that out. You can capture their attention in a much better way.
And here's one as well that we like. It's the 3 F's, the foundational phrase frame. Yeah. Hang on, that's 2 F's and a P.
Yeah.
My bad. Okay, so using a foundational phrase is so powerful. The foundational phrases are what drive your speeches, what makes them memorable. So a great intro is, here's just an example of how you might use a foundational phrase to open a speech. It's better to be passionate than perfect. When I was the other day, see, it gives you a powerful statement. It gives you your story. And the beauty of it is you can use that foundational phrase throughout your speech, but then to close with it as well. I use this in conversation all the time because it really piques people's interest, just one-on-one or in a group full of people.
Absolutely.
I'd say your turn comes to speak. You might say, speak from the solution. Don't speak from the pain. And then tell your story. See how that grips? I don't know who came up with that stinker, but
I don't know. I think they sound pretty brilliant.
But what a great way to entice people to listen. And a lot of times, your foundational phrase are what people remember. I keep saying this because my mentor Ian, he used to go up and tell a story. I used to go up and teach the same sort of thing. And I couldn't understand why people remembered his speeches more than me. And it clicked on me. People remembered his phrases. He always had this gift of having some sort of phrase. The greatest risk is not failure. The greatest risk is never trying. There's a foundational phrase. He'd always come up with these wonderful things. And that's what people remember. So coming up with something like that in your opening is a super powerful way to keep people engaged.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So there's some good tips on how to capture your audience's attention with powerful openers.
Yeah. Should we maybe we can put this in a PDF, a list of them.
Okay. I think that's a great idea.
A list of all the ways to open. And then if you guys want that, then just comment below or send us a private message with your email and we'll make sure you get it. Or I can set up a link. I'll set up a link and I'll put it in the comments. It'll be easier.
Take advantage of that natural phenomenon. It's the pique people's curiosity. Don't waste your time with canned openings that don't pique anybody's interest. Have something powerful. Have some high drama. Keep it cyclical. use your stories, ask your questions, you focus statements. These are all really powerful ways to open your speeches.
Absolutely. Yeah. And practice. It
Yes,
always comes back to
practice.
that. We can't hammer that home enough, that it's preparing and practicing your speeches. And I think one of the giveaways of an unprepared speech is an unprepared opening.
Mm-hmm.
You might know all your talking points and everything that you're going to teach, but if you're not prepared and you haven't practiced enough, that's when a speaker is likely to go on stage and say, "Hi, my name is Terry Holland," or "How are you all doing today?" And it becomes a stalling technique or a way of trying to hide some nervousness. So the more prepared you are, the more you practice, these openings will come out seamlessly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Are there any
Sure.
questions? If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. We're happy to answer them now or afterwards in the comments.
Oh, we've got a Fearless Speaker weekend this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Sure. It's the 29th and 30th. And its time is running out. If you're interested in joining us for education, fun, and maybe even a little bit of hypnosis as well.
Maybe a little. Just a little. It's a great weekend to attend. And we have a beautiful location for this one. Christy Powers is hosting us at her studio in Langley, so a nice central location. Lots of great places nearby. It's bus friendly, easily accessible, and it's going to be a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, Christy.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. Yeah. Anything else?
I don't know. That's it. So do I
All I
push this little finish button here, or how does this work?
got. Yeah, push the finish button.